Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the January 15th Super App Office Hours. Before we get started here, if I could ask you to just let us know either through chat or raising your hand if you can hear us and see the shared screen. Perfect. It looks like we are set and ready to go. Just a couple reminders that as we work through the slides, if there are any questions that you may have, please go into the chat and enter those questions, and we will take a moment at the end of the deck to go back through the questions and answer everything that we can at that time. Please, keep in mind that in case there are some questions that we may need to do a little outreach on, be sure to enter your contact information along with the questions so that if we need to contact you after this office hours presentation, we will have your contact information. So today, during office hours, quick agenda here, we'll take a look at the 21-22 school system planning review, as well as some federal support reminders, and then some reminders along the lines of central data and allocations. And of course, again, we'll wrap up with some questions. So the Super App launch materials, again, just a reminder, all of those 21-22 Super App and school system planning materials can be found in the School Improvement Library. To access the presentation recordings, you can actually select the image below. Super App facilitates school system planning. You've seen this slide, but again, just keeping in mind that we identify priorities, the school systems review data and identify priorities for the coming year. Also develop and align budget in which the school systems budget formula funds and request competitive funds in alignment with those priorities, and then implement with support where the school systems implement the approved plans with support from our school systems relations team and professional learning partners. So our continuing priorities for 21-22, CIR, UIR-A schools will continue to focus on these priorities for high quality curriculum in all grade levels. That is a required element for both CIR and UIR-A, as is high quality professional development for all teachers on the selected curriculum, high quality assessments, and teacher preparation partner to address schools' greatest needs. The final two, increase school-based capacity through content leader and mentor teacher participation, and student planning partners for the transition to college and our professional career are both required for CIR schools. New and improved priorities. So for the next school year, some additional required and or optional priorities. An improved priority, participation in school support institutes. That is required for both the CIR and UIR-A schools. A new priority, K-2 literacy content teachers has been added. It is required for CIR, but optional for UIR-A. Improved, certified, and ancillary mentor teachers is required for CIR. And culturally responsive PD is a new priority that has been added, and it is required for UIR-D schools. Discipline requirements. So why are we focusing on discipline requirements in 21-22? In order for students to be successful, they must engage in a positive, inclusive, and culturally responsive learning environment that develops social, emotional, and academic skills to cultivate personal agency and lifelong success. Louisiana will build the capacity of educators to provide students the unique support they require to be successful both personally and academically. So new, next school year, UIR-D schools will focus on professional development on unconscious bias, culturally responsive teaching, culturally responsive leadership, or diversity, equity, and inclusion training. School improvement best practices update. That is WT 4.1 in Super App. So that item enables school systems to request optional competitive funding for CIR schools to implement a variety of school improvement best practices, and we've provided the link here for you. When requesting funds in Super App, school systems should list each CIR school and the best practice or practices to be implemented at each site in the additional information box on the School Improvement Best Practices tab. And below, we've provided an example of what that additional information should look like. School System Planning Guide. Again, we have provided the link for the School System Planning Guide, which provides guidance on how a school system will build a plan and submit the Super App for formula and competitive funds to support that plan. For those of you who are generally familiar with the school system planning process, each section throughout the guide includes new this year call-out boxes, which highlight the notable changes from last year. And we've given an example of that as well. So what are the January key actions? Complete the contact and assurances in central data in EGMS. Within central data, the school systems must review, update, and save the contact tabs. School systems will also sign off on the assurances for ESSA, IDEA, and Perkins. Central data must be complete to submit Super App. The review process on these contacts is very important for school systems. We roll forward that data for you in an effort to just help out with data entry, but please be sure that you're reviewing those for any updates in whether it be names or phone numbers, emails, whatever it may be, so that the most recent and accurate information is available there. And then, of course, enter data into Super App. The planning lead and the school system leadership select a person to complete the Super App in EGMS. This team member enters the answers from the Super App workbook into EGMS and completes the steps identified in the Super App submission checklist. 2 additional document uploads are required as part of the Super App submission. So again, as you're working through Super App, remember there are 2 required document uploads, those being the professional development plan and the coordinated funding request. The CIR-UIR review process and allocation of competitive funds. Once the Super App applications have been received on February 12th, the LDOE staff will begin reviewing the submitted plans for alignment to the CIR and UIRA requirements. Should LDOE require clarification of a supplied response, or in the event a school system has not met all CIR-UIRA approved criteria, in mid-March, LDOE will return the school system's Super App for revisions. At that same time, LDOE will also provide each school system with a document that specifies areas of needed clarification or revision. So if for some reason there is a portion in your plan that needs clarification and the app needs to be returned, you will also receive a document that lists out what the areas that need clarification and or revision. In mid-April, LDOE will provide each school system with a document detailing final approval status, competitive funding allocations, a list of eligible expenditures, and a recommended approved CIR-UIRA implementation timeline. Okay, I'm going to pause just a second here. I think this slide was completely skipped, so I just want to go back and cover this area. Yeah. So on this update slide, and I do apologize for this being jumped over, Also in the additional, when we go back to your school improvement best practices, we were talking about information that should be entered into the additional information box. Also in that additional information box, school system should indicate a funding request of $8,700 per site for portal access and coaching support at each CIR school, which is implementing at least one best practice. Adding to the example from the previous slide, a correctly completed additional information box is below. So again, on the prior slide, we gave the information of how you should request school systems for best practices. But in addition to this example, we have added where you should include the funding request of $8,700 per site for portal access and coaching support at each CIR school, which is implementing at least one best practice. So we have, in the example below of additional information, we have added that line, making it a correctly completed piece of information in the additional information box. All right, federal support. So we have a non-public reminder here. The upload the intent to participate and affirmation of consultation and agreement forms should be completed in the Super App submission. As in the past year, the non-public, the intent to participate form must be uploaded with the February submission, and affirmation of consultation and agreement must be uploaded with the second Super App submission. Spell out the non-public schools and district names, do not abbreviate. Upload certified mail documentation, i.e. green cards, and mail receipt only if the non-public school has not returned the intent to participate form declining services. Do not upload the public needs assessment forms, consultation, agendas, etc. So again, just reminders on that non-public section in Super App. Quick reminder here, and I think we will touch on it again, but as in the years past, the non-public budget detail will not be submitted on the February 12th submission, but instead will be submitted in the second submission of Super App when competitive funds have been loaded. Couple of reminders on allocations. As I'm sure most of you are aware at this time, your estimated allocations for 21-22 ESSA, IDEA, and Perkins have been loaded into the 21-22 Super App, and you are in a position now to begin budgeting those funds. The estimated allocation uploads included Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, Neglected and Delinquent, DSS, IDA 611 and 619, and Carl Perkins. The estimated allocations does not include Title III, Migrant, and Title V. At this time, estimates for Title III, Immigrant, Migrant, and Title V have not been added to Super App. This will be done at a later date, but not it will not be required for the February 12th submission. Keep in mind that the grant period for these formula funds will begin on July 1 of 2021, and that your estimated allocations are 90% of the prior year, your 2021 final allocations. So again, estimated allocations are 90% of your final 2021 allocations. Technical assistance. This year we have added the opportunity for one-to-one technical assistance. We've provided a link below that you can use to schedule a meeting with LDOE staff. There is a form that you will need to complete that gives us information that we will need to be sure that we have the correct players at the table to help address any concerns you may have during that one-to-one call. So again, if you feel as though you would like to have a one-to-one technical assistance session, please use the link below and schedule that call. Super App submission deadline, as stated, is February 12th, 2021. Again, the non-public budget detail is not required for the February 12th submission. The department will review and approve these budgets by April of 2021. Your final allocations for the 2021 Super App have also been loaded. These include ESSA, IDEA, and Perkins. You are in a posture now that you can begin budgeting those funds as well. We had let you know in the last couple calls that the submit function for the 2021 Super App would be turned off during the process of updating your allocations. Just FYI, that submit function is now available again, so you may continue to submit amendments for your 2021 Super App. All right, so we'll pause at this time and give you a chance to enter any questions you may have, and we will take a look at those and be back shortly to respond to questions. So at this time, we have not received any questions. We are going to wait a couple more minutes just to be sure that there aren't some questions out there. But just again, note in the chat section, we have dropped the link to today's slide deck. So the link is provided for you in the chat for today's slide deck. And while we are waiting, again, just as we have in the past, we always like to bring back to the forefront the support that is available for Super App, all of the documentation in School Improvement Library, LDOE weekly newsletters, the school system monthly calls, and the Super App planning support calls, also through the help of our school systems relations team, office hours scheduled on Fridays. And if you have any additional questions after we leave today's webinar, please just keep in mind you can send those to the LDOE Grants Help Desk at la.gov, and please include in the subject line Super App, so that we will know that these are questions directly related to your completion of the Super App and they can be prioritized. Just a note, not included in the slides here, we did talk about in the last monthly call the Comp Ed, the potential for applying for some compensatory ed funding, and that page would be added into the 2021 Super App. That page is now available and should be completed in your amendment. It will actually be a check on the consistency check. Have you actually completed the compensatory ed page? There's an option when you first open the page. The first question asks if you are planning to apply for the compensatory ed, yes or no. If you answer yes, there are a series of questions that will require a response. If you answer no, that will end that portion of the tab, and you will not be required to answer the remaining questions. But again, though, just be mindful that in your 2021 Super App, the compensatory ed funding page has been added, and if you are planning to request any of that funding, you definitely need to get that completed and submitted in that application. And even if you're not, make sure that that page is completed in order to pass consistency. So at this time, Hunter, do we have any questions that have come in?
No, at this time, we don't have any questions.
Okay, well then we are being very mindful of everyone's time and know that your days are very busy. So since we do not have questions at this time, we'll go ahead and end the presentation for today. Again, we thank you for your time. We know how valuable it is. Should you have any questions once this session ends, again, please make sure to email those questions to ldoe.grantshelpdesk@la.gov and include Super App in the subject line. Thank you again.